A warm welcome to The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says it will be inappropriate to arrest the Israeli Prime Minister over an ICC warrant when it comes to New York. Ahead of the UN General Assembly, Secretary General Antonio Guterres urges world leaders to use the forum to reverse destructive trends and restore cooperation. Plus, 11 deportees sue the Ghanaian government over their detention in the country. Let's begin The World Today. Thanks for joining us again. We start off with the U.S. President Donald Trump on his way back following his state visit to the United Kingdom, telling reporters it would be inappropriate to arrest the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the U.S. over the ICC warrant, adding that he would intervene in such a scenario, also commending plans to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. President Trump was answering questions from reporters on Air Force One. Trump even said he would intervene if New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani attempted to have Netanyahu arrested during a visit, calling it inappropriate. Mamdani had told the New York Times he would order the NYPD to arrest Netanyahu, citing the International Criminal Court's 2024 warrant, and that New York State in New York is a city whose values are in line with international law. He had made the same statement in July at B'nai Jeshurun, a large synagogue in Manhattan. The International Criminal Court, headquartered in The Hague, issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, along with former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and assassinated Hamas commander Mohammed Deif in November, accusing him of war crimes.
Have you had conversations with Secretary Rubio or any of your military leaders about possible regime change in Venezuela?
No, I haven't.
You haven't had any discussions about plans or how to make it happen?
No, I haven't.
Mr. President, you mentioned in your remarks at the press conference something about Bagram and bringing it back to the U.S.
I'd like to get Bagram back.
Do you know how you plan to do that, sir?
They need a lot from us, and I'd like to get it back. It should have never been given. Bagram should have never been given. The air base. That was gross incompetence to give that up. You know, it's one of the most powerful bases in the world in terms of runway strength and length. The strength and length, you could land anything on there. You could land a planet on top of it. Can you imagine they gave it up for nothing? Just, oh, let's leave. And it's an hour away from where they make their missiles, China.
Regarding designating them a terrorist organization, when they don't have defined leadership or membership, how do you target them?
Who doesn't?
Antifa.
We're going to find out, right? We're going to see. People have been talking about it for a long time. We're going to see. Did they have anything to do with your network?
Mr. President, you said earlier this week that the women who yelled at you, who were protesting when you were at Joe Stone Crab, should be in jail. Do you actually think that that is an offense that deserves jail time?
I don't know how they got in there, but certainly I thought it was very inappropriate. And they said things that were and it was a question of when you take a look at the way they acted, the way they behaved. Yeah, I think they were a threat. We're going to finish the wars. We have a couple of them going, as you know. You look at Gaza, you look at Russia, Ukraine. We're working on that, and I'm working with Congress on. But I think we'll get it. You know, we did do 7. We actually did more than 7, which people don't like to talk about. But I say that and the economy, always the economy, especially bringing down the oil further. If we get the oil down, that war ends.
Let's bring in our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, to discuss this and other issues in the United States. Maria, interesting that this would be one of the main topics for the president. I mean, Netanyahu being arrested on U.S. soil. What has been the president's impression of his visit to the UK? Because this was on his flight back to the United States.
Yes, this meeting that he had in the UK was a visit that part of his presidential duties. I think that it was social, along with obviously very strategic in nature. He has obviously been looking at the various issues that will impact the United States, and as you mentioned, the issues around Netanyahu and kind of how the UK is positioned in this. He's obviously been trying to rally Europe for quite some time. And so this was just a step in that process. So the president has been very clear as to the fact that he believes that Europe is going to be a vital partner in some of this, and additionally being able to ensure that those relations are clearly outlined. And as we know, whether it's tariffs, whether it's just looking at the war in Gaza, and also the strategic positioning of Ukraine and the relationship between the U.S. and Russia.
Right. And we already know that President Trump and Netanyahu are allies. There have been accusations that Israel was behind the assassination of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk. The Prime Minister debunked that in a video yesterday. Talk show hosts have been speaking up for one of their colleagues, the host of the Jimmy Kimmel Live, after he compared the shooter with MAGA supporters. Why is this a touchy subject for many Americans?
This is a touchy subject for many Americans because the entire Charlie Kirk assassination and the killing has just definitely sparked political dialogue back and forth. We know, as you mentioned, the firing and the removal of Jimmy Kimmel's show obviously was politically motivated in that nature. And so obviously Charlie Kirk is someone that many people knew about, obviously over 300 million, but many on the Democratic side of the House were not as aware of the power and the work of Charlie Kirk. And so, looking at how sensitive this has become, and also really trying to understand the back end of where this type of hatred for him came from. We know the individual, obviously, who's now been detained and arrested and charged for this, and actually has been noted to have admitted to the crime through various video and audio records that the police were able to attain. That this was something that was obviously premeditated in some area, but there have not been a direct linkage to your point of anything international potential influence on this. And so it's just a very tough time in the United States as it relates to how we're moving, especially as it relates to this specific case, has just really brought forth the tension and some of what the U.S. has been obviously teetering on for quite some time. But this is an explicit area that is showing the true division in the country.
Right, a lot of people have been trying to, well, some quarters have been trying to draw the relationship between Charlie Kirk's assassination and the Israeli government. I won't go into the conspiracy theories, but back to the issue of the ICC arrest warrant on the Israeli Prime Minister and, of course, U.S. support for the sixth time in the United Nations Security Council. The U.S. vetoed a draft resolution that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of those hostages. How does this make the U.S. look? And it does seem like the U.S. playing to the gallery when it says it wants the release of those hostages and also wants to enter the war in Gaza, but then it goes on to veto, these resolutions at the UN Security Council.
Well, we know that the U.S. obviously has said they want to enter the war, but again, where does this put them in the position of their relationship with Israel? And so, when you think about the vote and you think about the position of the UN Security Council and all of what it means outside of just this one vote, I think that that's where the U.S. they have been clear on their position, but have not necessarily wanted to align with what the Security Council is calling for and asking for. So it's a very interesting dynamic here. And so, as we know, with the UN General Assembly happening just next week, and Secretary Rubio plans to be there and to be discussing these type of issues, and also calling for some other actions from the UN. And so, the U.S. is seeming to have a stronger position on how they feel about the UN, its participation and engagement globally.
Maria, just before you go, the presidents Donald Trump and the Chinese president Xi Jinping had a phone call just a few hours ago. They talked about TikTok. Do we know the outcome of that meeting?
Well, what we know is that there's supposed to be an in-person meeting that will happen, which obviously many people are waiting because there has been such a true challenge with business relationships, trade relationships, specifically with the US and China. TikTok is obviously a very large social media platform that's used in the United States, one that has created so many businesses, really been an economic force within the United States. And so people are very excited to hear that conversations are happening because obviously any conversation around banning TikTok in the United States is one that concerns many Americans, but also understanding the need to look at how the U.S. is faring with it, and also some equity issues and some of the challenges that the U.S. has brought up previously around the use of TikTok by Americans. So I think what we're really expecting is that there could be a meeting sometime here before the end of the year between the two presidents.
Appreciate your reporting, Maria. Thanks again. Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird. Now, in other news, UK Trade Secretary Peter Kyle has rejected President Trump's suggestion to use military forces to tackle illegal migration, stating that the UK military is focused on defending the nation, not stopping asylum seekers from crossing the channel. During his state visit to the UK earlier this week, President Trump had proposed that military intervention be used to address illegal migration into the UK, saying that they were a better deterrent than the Labour government's approach of diplomatic negotiations, agreeing returns, and toughening up court guidance. It comes as hundreds of migrants today attempted to cross the English Channel, coinciding with the second deportation under the UK government's one in, one out agreement with France. One Eritrean man became the second migrant to be deported under the UK government's deal with France after he lost a High Court bid to halt his removal. As leaders of member countries to the United Nations prepare to arrive in New York for the start of the UN General Assembly next week, Secretary General Antonio Guterres warns the world is facing a global crisis, citing escalating conflicts and deepening geopolitical divisions. This was contained in his latest address ahead of the program. Guterres said the summit must be viewed as a critical opportunity for problem solving, not point scoring, emphasizing that the international community cannot afford to miss this moment to address global challenges.
We are facing a global crisis. Conflicts are multiplying in the context in which geopolitical divides do not allow to effectively address them. There is a sense of impunity. Every country believes they can do whatever they want. So in this context, we absolutely need leaders to come here and to turn the tide, to come here and understand that international cooperation is vital in a moment like this, to come here and do the negotiations and the mediations that are necessary to at least create hope for peace in some of the situations we are facing. I believe that there will be a clear demonstration that the overwhelming majority of the countries in the world recognize the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, recognize that there must be a Palestinian state and recognize it in the meeting we'll have on Monday, and at the same time send a very clear message that the carnage that is happening in Gaza has to end, that we need a ceasefire immediately, with the release of all hostages immediately too, and with effective humanitarian aid in Gaza that is suffering the highest level of death and destruction that I've seen since I'm Secretary General. But the most important message is to the countries in the world that have obligations under international law, under international refugee law, that their doors must be open, that refugees must be seen, their rights respected. UNHCR, that has a fantastic role in supporting refugees all over the world, is now dramatically underfunded. So this is a tragic situation that requires a comprehensive response. This is the moment.
And in Europe, the European Commission has approved the 19th package of EU sanctions against Russia, focusing on energy companies, cryptocurrency platforms, and other sectors. Unveiling the sanctions at a press conference in Brussels, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the package would also ban cryptocurrency platforms that facilitate transactions with Russia. She described the move as targeting financial loopholes which Russia uses to evade sanctions. She also announced plans to penalize foreign energy companies that purchase oil in violation of the sanctions.
Over the past month, Russia has shown the full extent of its contempt for diplomacy and international law. It has launched some of the largest scale drone and missile attacks against Ukraine since the beginning of the war, striking government buildings and civilian homes alike, hitting our EU office in Kyiv, the representation of our union. The threats to our union are also rising. In the last 2 weeks, Russian Shahid drones have violated our union's airspace, both in Poland and in Romania. These are not the actions of someone who wants peace. Again and again, President Putin has escalated, and in response, Europe is increasing its pressure. This is why today I'm presenting the 19th package of sanctions. First, on energy. Russia's war economy is sustained by the revenues from fossil fuels. We want to cut these revenues. So we are banning imports of Russian LNG into European markets. It is time to turn off the tap. We are prepared for this. We have been saving energy, we have been diversifying supplies, we've been investing in low-carbon sources of energy like never before. And today these efforts pay off. Then we have just lowered the crude oil price cap to $47.6. To strengthen enforcement, we are now sanctioning 118 additional vessels from the shadow fleet. In total, more than 560 vessels are now listed under EU sanctions.
Headed to South Africa now, where the country's minister in the presidency, Kumbodzo Nshavheni, says South Africa and the United States have exchanged trade proposals following a decision by the U.S. to impose 30% tariff increase in the country on goods imported locally from August.
Meeting with the U.S. There's a team that is led by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Tau, but it is outside of him. There's a special envoy of the President, who's a special advisor of the President, Mr. Dr. Alistair Reuters, who has been in the U.S. and he has remained there. He was working with the DG of DTSC, and they've been meeting with the trade. The U.S. Trade Council to finalize the deal, because what may be in between the cabinet briefings, we had proposed a deal with the U.S. They responded by giving us their counter proposal, so we then sent a team to engage on the details of what the U.S. has proposed, because even in the U.S. proposal, there's an acknowledgement that there must be discussions and negotiations, and it's for that reason that Minister Tau then left in advance to go and have those discussions. Minister Lamula has always been engaging his counterpart on opening the pathways. But what is fundamental is that the U.S. and South Africa are continuing to engage on the proposals on the table so that we can find a common ground.
Meanwhile, the G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance Summit 2025 is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa. Our correspondent Innocent Samosa has more on what's happened so far.
It's often said that young people are the future of the continent. But today we talk of young people as a lost generation. And the question is, if these young people are lost, whose fault is it? Is it because the leaders have lost touch with young people in terms of mentoring them? Or the question goes deeper. Here at the G20 Entrepreneur Summit, I had a chat with young people who are saying that it's time to change the status quo.
So for me, it's mostly an opportunity where someone sees what I've already done so far, how much I've invested so far on my own, and say, we are willing to put in something here to show that we can support you guys and not just make it about, oh, our youth are lazy, they don't want to do anything. We are out here, we're trying to do something, we want support. And it's mostly like, so far I've been getting more of, okay, I want to put money in your business so that I get something out of it.
I don't have a problem of funding. I have a problem with expanding my business, because I don't only want to focus on the medical faculties. I also want to broaden my market to...
But what type of resources would you need to expand your business? Because I guess funding is part of it, is it not?
Yes, funding could play part of it, but what I'm looking for more is partnership.
I had the opportunity to engage with Japanese entrepreneurs who highlighted some unique business opportunities available for African entrepreneurs in Japan.
Japón está muy cerrado país, entonces quiero cambiar eso para jóvenes.
Japan offers a wide range of business opportunities for young South Africans, particularly in sectors where the two countries' strengths complement each other. One promising area is technology and innovation. Japan is a global leader in robotics, renewable energy, advanced manufacturing, and digital transformation, while South Africa has a growing pool of young tech talent and entrepreneurs eager to scale solutions across Africa.
For the next coming 2 days, young people will converge here. Policymakers and business leaders will be transferring skills, and many of them are quite excited about what's to come next. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Simos, Channels Television News.
11 people detained in Ghana after being deported from the U.S. have sued the West African nation's government. Their lawyer, Oliver Barker-Vomawa, says the deportees had not violated any Ghanaian law and their detention in a military camp is illegal. They want the government to produce the group in court and justify why they were being held against their will, but the government is yet to comment on the suit. Program: a 30-year-old man from Yunnan, central China, Li Jiangyang, is wowing residents with his dexterity and efficiency at his job. Look at him go. He has no hands. Li answers his phone to take orders after having friends strap the device to his upper limb. Initially challenged by inconvenience, Li gradually adapted and made necessary changes to steer through the tasks. But since starting work as a part-time delivery driver in July, he has become more efficient and has started donating his income to charities. He also sells calligraphy at night and receives governmental support to raise his children alongside his beloved wife. Well, nothing can stop you except yourself. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani.